they're talking about in here was the meeting that McCabe sprung on him in the White House and told him not to have a lawyer. It's the same meeting. So the meeting they're citing in here is the entrapment meeting. When Flynn didn't know he was being interviewed, they told him not to have a lawyer.
Yeah.
And then they all lie. Meanwhile, they're all lying, but then they say, oh, Flynn lied.
No, I know. It's literally, it's like a murderer going, prosecuting somebody for, I don't know, for jaywalking or something, and like scolding them in the street. My attorney, when I had to appear before the grand jury, Brian Lloyd, who's an excellent, very incisive thinker, pointed out how you look at language and hear like, oh, it was very cordial. The general was friendly and all that, as if that like obviates the fact that they have set this man up. They're trying to make it sound as though, oh, he just walked right into it and just, he just put himself in handcuffs right there for us, and he was cordial about it too. That doesn't make a difference. You're setting somebody up like this. You're using deception. You're basically manipulating the entire thing. I mean, they cite a Washington. If you would believe.
Yeah, hold on. Hold that thought right there, because let's just lay the groundwork here. So Flynn's been in the White House, I think it's 6 days. He gets a call from McCabe on the phone who says, hey, we need to talk to you. We just need to have a brief conversation with you. Just normal routine stuff. You're here in the White House. We're here. Just normal routine stuff. No big deal. And Flynn, this is after they're already pushing the fake Russia investigation thing. So I think Flynn says, maybe perhaps tongue-in-cheek, who knows, says, is this going to be about the media reports with Russian contacts? And so McCabe's just kind of like, oh, yeah, we'll be talking about that. But, it's no big deal. And he even says, you don't need a lawyer. This is just a run-of-the-mill thing. No big deal. We're just going to question all this stuff. So as in the document says, so Flynn's like, okay, cordial. He's like, oh, we're all on the same team here. I have nothing to fear. And it was all a setup the entire time.
As Andrew Scumbag McCabe's dirty cop fingerprints all over it. You recall how he set up. What was the instance where he walked? I believe it was it was Reince Priebus. How he walked Priebus into that deal where he said, well, I can't announce, or I can't, in other words, he suggested a meeting and said, the president's not actually under investigation. And then Priebus said, well, can you make an announcement to this effect? He said, well, let me go back and think about it. And then immediately says and comes out with a story saying the president's chief of staff is trying to influence Andrew McCabe to come out and say that, that the president's not under investigation, and this is.
And then they bully Priebus to give them a comment they want, and that's even in here.
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, these people are. I mean, it's just. It blows my mind, honestly, Owen. Like, this is such an affront to justice. This is such an affront to rationality, logic, due process, fairness. I mean, just basic decency, what they've done.
All right, so Tyler, let's get into the nuts. But hold on, Tyler. Let's get into the nuts and bolts in this. The nuts and bolts in this on the other side, and I want to get Roger's take on this real quick, because Roger, the exact same thing almost happened to you. I won't get into all the stuff I know about this, but they tried to set you up the exact same way. So they set Papadopoulos up. They tried to set you up. They tried to set Flynn up. So they set all these entrapment setups out there. And you caught onto it. So talk about when, again, let's go back to when they tried to set you up, Roger.
Well, Owen, let's put it this way. It's time to investigate the investigators. This is an abuse of power that is extraordinary. There is no interest whatsoever in the crimes of the Clinton or Obamas. The only interest is in finding some shred of evidence that can be twisted in such a way as to damage Donald Trump. There's no interest by the special counsel in the greatest treasonous financial crime in American history, Uranium One, where it is indisputable that Bill and Hillary Clinton took $145 million from the Russian energy company, or from executives thereof, at the exact same time that the transfer of 25% of America's strategic energy was on Hillary Clinton's desk for transferal to the Russians. Who was it who walked those samples to Stockholm for inspection by the Russians before they closed the deal? Why, it was Robert Mueller. There's no interest whatsoever in what is very clearly the illegal use of FISA warrants to spy on Donald Trump's campaign. That's far more egregious than anything that happened in Watergate. That's an abuse of power in which the authority and capability of the state was used to spy on one of the two major party candidates for president. There is no interest in the activities of the FBI, the way they used assets and cutouts, human assets, to contact George Papadopoulos, to contact Carter Page, to contact Michael Caputo, to contact me. Yet again, the Washington Post writes this week, among those who met with Russians was Roger Stone. Well, he wasn't a representative of the Russian state. He wasn't working for the Russians. He was an informant for the FBI. But that was missing from the Washington Post story. It is outrageous the way they systematically minimize or ignore or trivialize the massive crimes of the Obama regime while focusing on immaterial BS in an attempt to smear the president in preparation for a congressional takedown.